Dr. Adam. It was a lovely presentation. Mr. Omar, I'm wearing the other hat, but it's the same person, so I don't want you to worry at all about not being critical, because I will be critical. All right? The title of the book is saying Making It Happen, and the question is, why is it not happening, really, in our case, this transformation? Okay? We know what needs to be done, and yet it's not really happening. The question is why. Okay? And I think what you said helps us a lot in finding why. Okay? We know the bits and pieces, but this is what was really very enlightening. And I'm going to focus my comments on actually what you called ingredients for success. Okay? And I want to raise actually 3 questions. Okay? First of all, I want to ask, what are really the key messages, even in those ingredients for success? Can we make them even tighter, okay, more focused? Okay, I will try to answer that. Then my second point would be to mention few comments that are relevant to each one of these ingredients for success, relevant for the case of Egypt, where we're missing things, what are we missing? And then the third question is obviously, or the main question is, what can we do in order to improve things? Okay? If you look at the ingredients for success, whether we're talking about the commitment to a national goal, the transformational leadership, the consensus building, promoting inclusive institutions, adopting pragmatic and flexible approaches, strengthening transparency and accountability, we notice 4 key, very focused messages. First one, all of these ingredients for success are interlinked. They are not separate. Okay? You cannot really talk about transformational leadership in the sense that was described by Dr. Aram without having a national goal. They go together. There has to be something that puts everybody together. Okay? Otherwise, you cannot talk about any kind of transformation. You cannot talk about consensus building if you don't have a national goal in the first place. Okay? If it's not there, then you cannot have the consensus building. Okay? And the rest follows. Everything is interlinked. So it's not separate items that we can achieve separately. They have to be achieved together. And they have to start from the national goal. Otherwise, it doesn't work. The second, I think, key message is about the transparency and open communication. It lies at the heart of everything. If there is no transparency, there is no trust. And if there is no trust, then you cannot talk about anything. You cannot talk about consensus. You cannot talk about leadership at the lower levels. You cannot talk about anything, literally. Okay? So it's the transparency and the open communication. Okay? The third key focused lesson is also the revolutionary changes. We're not talking here about gradual changes. We're not talking about small steps. We're not talking about piecemeal changes. We are talking about daring, revolutionary changes. Okay? A country that decided to transform its position from something to something else, and they went for it. Okay? Whatever it takes, they pushed. Okay? And then the fourth lesson is the accountability. Okay? Because the accountability is what makes sure that things can happen. If you don't have accountability, there is nothing you can do. And this is actually one of the most serious problems that we have, even though we have the institutions for it. But our typical life story, okay, the story of our life is that you have the government making a plan, implementing the plan, monitoring the implementation of the plan, okay, uploading for itself for implementing the plan, and this is where the circle is, okay. And as long as the circle is like this, you cannot really go very far, okay. So these are actually, I think, the 4 key messages that we need to listen to very carefully in the case of Egypt. Now, if we look at the ingredients for success and take each one and sort of link it to our case, okay? The commitment to a national goal, okay? Look at the buzzwords, the keywords here, and they are very, 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 very critical. You're talking about clear goals. You're talking about goals that are anchored in the Constitution. So we're really talking about something solid. We're talking about commitment by all for this national goal, a sense of a mission, okay? It's a military thing, okay? This is what we want to achieve, and we'll go for it. All right? Do we have that? We don't have it. Okay? We have the Vision 2030. Okay? It's a starting point. Okay? It was not discussed at the social level. It was not discussed by the different stakeholders. Okay? This did not happen. All right? And even the Minister of Planning himself is saying it's a starting point, and we need to work on it, and we need to communicate it, and we need to look at its details, okay, and make it something tangible that can be implemented. So we really don't have that, okay. The commitment of the people for change, okay. If you don't have this vision, okay, if you do not have this clear goal, you cannot have the commitment. Okay, they go hand in hand. So we should not be surprised that people are not committed. Okay, we don't have a target that links them together. We have a constitution, all right, and we have very key corners, very clear in the constitution. And I was one of the lucky people that had the lifetime chance of writing the constitution. One of the 50 people. It is there, all right, but it's not implemented. Okay, and it's not addressed fully. So we have an issue here. If you talk about the transformational leadership, okay, again, the key words at all levels, from the president to the local officials, okay, we have it at the president's level. This is very clear. We have the political commitment for change, okay, but start going down, okay, you lose it. It gets diluted, and it disappears at a certain point, okay. One of the examples that one never forgets, okay, about how you lose the leadership, okay, as you go down, okay, when you think of something like the food safety law, all right, that is about to come out. It took 13 years for it to come out, which is really ridiculous, okay, as something that is win-win-win scenario at all levels for everybody, and yet it's not happening. And it was not happening because at the Ministry of Health and at the Ministry of Agriculture and at the Ministry of Industry, each one of them at the bureaucracy level as you go down, okay, they all have their issues, they all have their conflicts, they all have their rents that they are trying to keep, and it's not happening. The national interest is not there, even though it's incredibly obvious, all right. So we don't really have this transformational leadership, okay. We don't have the collective leadership. We don't have the leaders earning the trust from the key stakeholders. I think it's clear. I don't have to say more about it. It's very clear. We don't have the sense of urgency. Okay, again, part of this transformational leadership is the sense of urgency. Okay, again, we don't see this. We all remember the Sharm el-Sheikh conference. Okay, when we started off, we were after investment. We wanted everybody to come and invest in Egypt. Okay, we prepared an investment law. We took a long time to prepare an investment law that turned out to be not so good, all right, and not attractive for investment at all. And it needs revision. We need to revisit our philosophy for attracting investment. Okay, so even though the belief that we need the investment, we did not have the sense of urgency that makes us create the investment environment that would attract local investment even before FDI. It was not there. If you look at the consensus building, okay, overcoming diversity through inclusive due processes, okay. When they were thinking diversity in South Africa, they were thinking blacks and whites, okay. All right. When we are thinking diversity here, we are talking about different stakeholders. We are talking about the business community and the private sector. We're talking about the government. We're talking about the formal versus the informal sector. We do have a lot of diversity, okay, and we don't have this consensus building. Again, a key precondition here is the transparency and the open communication policy. All right. When we talk about the international experiences, okay, we get a lot of support from the World Bank and other institutions, but it was never, okay, really fully tailored to what we need. We're always studying the ideal models, okay? You can be there, all right, but I'm here. How can I go from here to there? Is it really tailored? It's never completely tailored, okay? It's always a problem. When we talk about creating inclusive institutions, this is really our biggest disaster and the biggest problem. We have a serious problem, okay? You know the structure, you know the governmental structure, you know the need for the structural reform. Putting people first, okay, is an incredibly interesting word to put. And when I think of of small enterprises and somebody going to start considering, the poor guy considering starting a business and going to IDA, for instance, to start an industrial project, and the suffering and what he goes through, people are not first. Okay? And one of the key problems, by the way, I was on the board of, I'm talking very, very frankly, I was on the board of IDA for about a year, and I left. I couldn't continue. All right. When we were talking about changing the system and simplifying it and putting people first and all this stuff, all right, you would listen to the people and to the people in charge. All right. And I was talking about cutting costs for certain items, steps that are not needed. Why don't we simply overcome this? All right. And we have here Sharif who's nodding his head because this is the story of his life. I know. All right. But when you ask them, why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? They would tell you, but we're an economic institution. So what does that mean? It means we have to make profit. What do you mean we have to make profit? It means we have to earn some money. I mean, after all, we have to earn some money, and we have to be able to cover our expenses. So this is not why you are here. There is something wrong with your understanding of things. So we have serious issues with some key institutions. And at the governmental level, we need serious restructuring. Committed management teams, clear incentives, good remuneration, employment conditions, focusing institutions on service delivery. We need a lot of help in this area. Strengthening transparency and accountability. The first item put here is having strong constitutional foundations. The constitution is there, foundations are there, we just have to use them. Okay. Using ICT to simplify interface between citizens and the state. Okay? We have it, but in a very limited way. It needs to be expanded significantly. Open budgeting and disclosures. Okay? The budgeting is an issue. The budget structure, our budget structure needs to be completely revised. It needs to be based on programs that we can monitor and control. There are lots of things that we need to do. Strengthening performance, monitoring, and evaluation. Okay? These are some of the issues that we are all living in, and the majority of the audience are Egyptians, so you know exactly what I'm talking about. All right? But does this mean that we don't have anything? No, we have a lot. Okay? But we need to work on it properly. What do we have? All right? I said we have the Constitution. All right? We have grounds. Let me talk about some specific items that were mentioned through the presentation. We have specific articles in the Constitution that address decentralization, which is something that's very seriously needed. Our system is extremely centralized. We have, okay, the constitutional backup for decentralization, okay, but we need to move forward. We did not take it forward yet. We have a program for social assistance and for helping the poor, all right, takaful and karama, a lot of things, all right, but it's not enough. It is not enough. What it's doing is play the role of improving the life of the people within the poverty circle. They remain in the poverty circle, but they live a little bit better. What we need, the full meaning of the social justice, is to give them the chance, to empower them to get out of the poverty circle and reach the middle class, all right? To allow for the social move. This means a lot of attention to education, a lot of attention to health, a lot of improvement in transportation, which is, by the way, considered to be one of the key criteria for achieving social justice. Because if you don't have the freedom of mobility, you cannot seek the education, you cannot seek opportunities here and there. All right. So we still have a lot to do in this area. There is a lot of effort, a lot of serious, genuine effort, but it's not enough. Okay. We need to do a lot more. All right. We have restructuring reforms efforts that are being done by the Ministry of Administrative Development. A lot of efforts, and I have a whole list, plans for restructuring ministries. I know that there is a full plan for restructuring the Ministry of Agriculture, for instance, which is total chaos, and employing about 1 million people, all right? And so on and so forth. Right? There are lots of programs for training employees and improving their capabilities, etc., etc., etc. But very little is happening. Why very little is happening? Because if you look at the institutional structure of the government, you find that the Ministry of Administrative Development is on equal foot with all other ministries. All right? So there is no way that anybody is going to listen to what they say. All right? Why should I listen to you? All right. When the minister goes to the Minister of Agriculture and he tells him, listen, your ministry is a total mess. All right. I have the plan for you to improve things. All right. Okay? And he's got all this bureaucracy underneath that's going to kill him. The minute he starts changing, he's going to tell you, why don't you start with yourself? You look at your own ministry and see what you need to do. Right? So because of this position, there is very little that you can do. Okay? If in order to do it, it needs to be higher. And this is one of the areas where the Presidential Council is collaborating actually with the ministry. Okay? And we told Dr. Ashraf the following, okay, let us have a plan, clear plan of what needs, which studies are clear and ready for implementation, which parts need more work. Let's have a schedule. And let's have the schedule adopted by the president, because the political leadership is coming from above, so that it's forced on the system, it's forced on everybody. All right? This is not the best way to do it, but this is the way to try and push things. So again, we have efforts, but the efforts are not complete. We have attempts to coordinate, which is one of the most serious problems that we have in our system. Okay, one of them, okay, is the creation of the Coordination Council within the central bank. Coordination Council within the central bank has always been there as an article in the central bank law, but never activated. It was activated. Its purpose is to put together in the same room, the central bank, the Ministry of Investment, the Minister of Investment, the Minister of Industry, the Minister of the Prime Minister, of course, okay, the Minister of Industry, the Prime Minister, the Central Bank, who else? The Minister of Finance, and put all of these guys, and Industry, put all of these guys together in the same room, okay, and see how you can solve the problem, okay, because you do need a full program in order to get over things. Okay? You cannot rely only on the monetary policy. You cannot only rely on the fiscal policy. Everything needs to be put together. Everything needs to be coordinated together. Okay, as if it's a song. It has to be put all together and properly played together. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Okay. We have road networks. There is stuff talk about road preparing, having road networks. We have a serious project in this area. We are building new 4,500 kilometers of new roads, and we're trying to improve the quality of the others and trying to improve the maintenance. We have a serious program there. All right. But again, to what extent is this linked really to the investment opportunities here and there? All right. We have bits and pieces of information about our investment potential, okay, our resources here and there. Is it all linked together? Okay, is it properly linked with the 1.5 million Fed for instance? Are things properly coordinated with each other? Okay, not quite. So we have things, a lot of things, but they are not complete. And we need them to be complete in order to have the cycle, this very cute circle that you had in your presentation, all right? In order to have the circle, all right? And can we see it, please? Yes. In order to have this circle, all right, you need the whole thing, all right? Our circle is broken, and to complete it, you need to have decent strategy. You need to, focus on implementation. You need to complete things. All right. What can we do? I already started answering what we can do, but it's easier said than done. All right. So let's complete the cycle. All right, and we clap and go home. All right. How can we complete the cycle? It's not that easy. If it were easy, it would have been done already. There are key things that we have to worry about. One of them is to focus on the drivers of change. Okay, because there are lots of things that need to be changed. There are lots and lots of problems, but there are drivers of change. Drivers of change is like taking a stone and throwing it in the river, makes big circles around it. You want to change the things that can affect a bunch of others. Okay? One of these key changes, okay, is to improve the quality of our information and database, because it lies at the heart of everything. Okay? We need, for instance, to unify our different data sources. Okay? We have a joke in this area. We have the ID card. All of you have your famous ID card. Okay? The ID card has very little information. It's designed to accommodate all information related to this human being. What we have is very little. Why? Because each organization is sort of hiding its information, doesn't want to share it. All right? When it all needs to be put together. Okay? If it is put together, if we have a decent, unified, and consolidated database, then we can target the subsidy. Then we can have a much more decent social assistance program. And we can cut on expenditure. significantly, all right, and therefore cut on our budget deficit. Okay, it's all linked together, all right. When we talk improvement of our databases, we are not talking only about the information related to individuals. We're talking also about all kinds of information, okay, on the resources that are available, on the different assets that are there within the informal sector. You have assets of the value of how much is it? 400 is this crazy number.
440 billion.
Yeah, $340 billion. It's just a minor few coins. All right. Okay, it is there. Yeah, of that capital, it is there, and it's not being used. We don't really know. We do not know. We don't have a map for the infrastructure of our roads. This is why every time you dare to do something on the road, fix a water tube or something, you have a problem with electricity. And then you fix the problem with electricity, you have this third problem. Why? Because you don't have the infrastructure, you don't have the map. Okay? These are basic things. If we don't have these basic things, then we do not have enough information. And if we don't have enough information, then we cannot take serious decisions and we cannot make policy changes. Because what you cannot measure, you cannot plan, and you cannot improve. Right? So this is the first thing, and it's extremely important, and it's a driver of change. All right? Another driver of change is our ICT system. Okay? We are giving a lot of attention to ICT. We have one of the biggest, according to all international statistics, we have one of the biggest numbers of the use of mobiles and all that. But when you link, we're using the mobiles to talk to each other. It's not being used for any serious business. The use of computers and the use of the internet is not necessarily in order to do something serious with our work. We need to link everything together. If we link everything together, then people will come first. We'll be able to offer services in a lot better way, and so on and so forth. A third one would be the structural reforms, to complete those structural reforms, institutional reforms that are being done by the Ministry of Administrative Development, and take reforms in general very seriously. One of the key impediments to reform is that we are always asking the same people who are benefiting from the existing structure to do the reform, which is ridiculous. Okay? Because you cannot be sitting at the first row of the classroom and I'm telling you stand up and go willingly to the last row because you love your colleagues. All right? You say, to hell with my colleagues, I'm sitting in my place and I'm not moving. You cannot achieve revolutionary change this way. All right? Because there will always be resistance. And again, I'm repeating the example of the food and safety law. 13 years. And each one is protecting his interests. And it's happening all the time. This is one of the key reasons why the change does not take place. We have to be united, okay, around a national goal. I think we have to revisit, okay, take the good starting point that exists, which is the Vision 2030, and see how we can improve upon it and have a national goal and create the level of communication that is needed in order to have everybody aligned. We need to have the people aligned. And people, by the way, are ready to be aligned if we have a clear national goal and that is properly communicated. Okay? Egyptians are very serious about change. They are very serious about their future. We went through two very serious revolutions with very clear goals. Okay? And I think we are very capable of making the transformation and the change needed. Just like we did revolutions, we can revolutionize change if the proper steps are taken along what I've been talking about, and a lot more. But this is just an idea, and I think what was presented was extremely useful, and I'm sure that we can do it, and we will, inshallah. Thank you.